Hi guys, it's Teresa here of Larkin Design, and welcome to week 14 in my 2017 Project Life album. So today my layout has sort of come together a bit organically, and I was just sort of playing around, just kind of seeing trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So that part of my process was kind of klutzy, and it's happened over a couple of days here that I've just been playing around with it. So I decided that I would just pick you up here where I have all my photos in place, and I've sort of I created my own grid, right? I opened a 12 by 24 inch canvas that's 300 ppi, and then I placed my own rectangles here in the typical design A kind of configuration. But one of the things that I knew I wanted to do is I wanted to use these whimsical frames. They're from On a Whimsical Adventure, and they are just little layering tools, and they add, I'll zoom in here, they add a little, it's kind of cute, they add a little viewfinder, kind of like you're looking through a camera screen or a camera lens, right? And so I had a couple of really cute pictures. One, Addison was in Washington, D.C. this week with his class, with the 8th graders, and so he took his phone and he took some great pictures with his phone. And so those are courtesy of Addison. And then that one is their whole class on the steps of the Capitol. And then I also had this one I had shared on my Instagram. Alan and I went on a date night, and so I wanted to use it on that photo. And there's also another one, and I have, this is not, none of this is this hasn't been edited for the final time yet. There's some little things I need to touch up. But here is this picture of the stage. We went to the symphony, and so this is the North Carolina Symphony. They're on the stage, getting ready to perform. There are people still finding their seats, and they were just beginning to speak before the symphony began playing. And so I didn't want to take any pictures while they were performing, so I just took that photo real quick just to get a feeling of the space, and just to remember what that night felt like. That's sort of an idea of where I was jumping off for this layout. I also have just a random photo of me from when I was working on some videos, and then the ever-loving photos of our yard and our flowers. So that's what's up with the photos this week. What I really wanted to do is I wanted these black frames, right? I wanted them to contrast against the white background. So they are going to float here. And then what I'm going to share with you in my process is how I'm going to use the collection that I want to use here to fill in some of the spaces that are still available. There's, I still need to create my date card, and then there are some 3x4 spaces. I'm also going to add a little journaling in my Photoshop process today. So that's what you're getting ready to see from me. I'm going to switch it now to time lapse and get started on adding the digital elements. Okay, so moving into the product choices now. I'm working with a collection called My One True Love. It's from On a Whimsical Adventure and is available at the Sweet Shop. I will include links below. all of the digital products that I'm using today are from On a Whimsical Adventure, and so I'm going to just basically drag and drop the elements that I want to use into the layout. And I totally know at this point that I'm going to do something different than normal. There are a few journaling cards that are available with this collection, and I'll end up using one of them, I think. And then the others, I really wanted to play with the white space that was behind the photos. So I'm bringing in these elements, and I love the transparent feel to these elements here. So I'm just placing them directly onto my canvas here and sizing them down a bit so that they're scaled a bit better to the photos, and these will create a really nice background for some light stamping. I'm thinking I might add a few more dimensional embellishments on top once it's printed. So I had a lot of fun playing around with those white spaces now. I am going to do a traditional date card here. I'm using one of the patterned papers, and these had a very vintage feel to me, but I feel like with the white background and those frames that they give a little more edgy feel. And here's the journaling card that I decided to drop in, and it just says love. And I really love the textures that are in that journaling card. There's an incredible amount of depth to the collections from On a Whimsical Adventure. It's one of the things that I absolutely love about her collections, and enjoy using them for that reason. Now here is some word art, and there's a whole alphabet set included with this collection, which is really fun. But I love the You and Me, and I brought it in. Well, I haven't brought it in yet. I opened it up. I'll bring it in here in a minute, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with that. Now, originally, I had thought that I would have some of these other gradients sort of going off the page, and then I decided not to do that. I decided that I would add one of these washi strips, and so I'm putting some word art over there. Whoops, I lost my drawing here. There, I had too many windows open. Okay, so I decided to put this word art there instead, and just treat it like a normal journaling card, only it doesn't really have borders. And that's okay. We're going to establish sort of organic borders with each of these cards, right? So I'm loving this idea of playing around a little bit with the invisible borders of each frame, the 3x4 frame, the 4x6 frames. They're sort of vanishing. Those borders are sort of vanishing on this layout a little bit. I realize I'm creeping over into full-on digital territory here, but that's fun, right? And it gives a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more personality to the layouts. I'm just straightening up some of the lines here. I did use my own grid here that I just created on the fly, because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do yet with those whimsical frames. So that's okay. This just sort of grew almost out of nothing. So that's kind of fun. But it does take a little bit of time if you create your own template. It takes a little bit of time to straighten up all of these edges a little bit. I'm using the guidelines that Photoshop has, You just drag those down from your ruler, down or across from your ruler, just to help keep things lined up. So I'm just doing the final check here on those. And so you can see there where these two 3x4 cards, I've created space here for journaling. And so I'll go back here in a few minutes. I'm going to add some journaling in Photoshop today. Something that I have committed to working on this year and being better about adding journaling before I print it. So I want to do a combination of typed journaling and handwritten journaling. And there's definitely space on this layout for both. So I think it's important. To do both. Of course, if you just want all your journaling to be typed, or you want all your journaling to be handwritten, that's okay to do that. I like the combination of both. One, because typing helps me feel like I'm getting more on the page, and I also have a bad habit of not journaling about every photo, which again isn't a requirement. You don't have to journal about every photo, but I have a tendency to leave some things out, or after I'm done I feel like, oh, I should have added that. So that's just how I'm trying to work on that in my own process a little bit. Share your thoughts with me. How do you approach your journaling, typed or handwritten? Do you feel like you have to say something about every photo, or do you feel like you leave do you leave details out, or do you leave photos out on a week-to-week basis? I feel like I do. So you're not alone if that's you. Yeah. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that. I think that I have it all pretty much neatened up, all of these things. I'm just going to close everything out. Oh, I had this You and Me word art. I'm going to put it here at the bottom of this space so that it creates a journaling spot here. And so the idea is that there are sort of invisible boundaries, and the You and Me word art creates the start of those invisible boundaries, right? Because then the journaling will go on top here. So I've drawn my text box, and I'm using Palatino regular for my font. It's what I use a lot. It's kind of just a basic font. It's pretty widely available, but I kind of like how it looks, and so I'm using that one today, and it's at a 12. It's at a 12 point now. I think that I ended up changing it to 11 point. That's a pretty good guideline in Photoshop. It won't come out too small, but I just kind of go by feel too, depending on how much text I want to add in this box. I don't think you would want to go much bigger than 11 or 12 point on this font, because then it's just going to look sort of big in scale compared to the layout. And of course I've filled this text box, so I shrunk it down just a little bit to 11 point, just so that, for one thing, it brought in that the border of the card now is created by the outline of the text. So I brought it down to 11 point just to make that a little bit smaller. I'm going to add a little bit of typed text here next to the photo. This is sort of like a yearbook caption, right? It's sort of what it reminded me of. This is a classic yearbook photo. I don't know how they got all these kids to all sit still for 1 minute to take this photo, but it's great, right? And actually I have to credit the school, because I grabbed that photo from Instagram account, I think, from the school's Instagram account. So it's I have to give credit for that photo. So definitely it pays to follow your kids' schools on Instagram and on social media, because sometimes you can grab some good photos that way. And here I'm doing the same thing with the text box, this time underneath the word art. And again, the idea of creating this invisible border or this invisible frame so that this still reads as one card, even though it doesn't have necessarily an edge like we think of, right? And then that is all for today. So I'm going to split this video out and do the embellishing portion in a separate video, probably tomorrow or the following day.